Hello everyone, and welcome to the third annual Voices of FHS. My name is Angie Carchesi, and I'm your host tonight. Thank you all so much for coming out. Months of preparation went into tonight, and we can't wait for you to see the show. Now, I first decided to take over the Voices of FHS because we've never really had anything like it at Franklin. A chance for students to get up in front of their peers, as well as adults, and speak about their ideas and their passions and their stories. Tonight, students get to talk about what matters to them. Whether it's a personal story or just something that they're passionate about, each and every one of these speakers gathered up the courage to get on the stage tonight. We have speeches about a variety of topics, all written and performed by 7 FHS students. We will have 4 speakers, a 10-minute intermission, and then another 3. Now let's get started. Our first speaker is Senior Evie Sellers, who will be speaking about environmental activism.
Years. Think of all the things you can do in 12 years. You could graduate high school 3 times over. You could watch the entire Harry Potter series 445 times. You could even make 260,000 cups of coffee. And you might have to save the planet. The most recent UN climate report gave the countries of the world a 12-year deadline to stop the impacts of climate change from becoming irreversible. In order to do this, carbon dioxide emissions, which come from the burning of fossil fuels, as well as deforestation, would need to be reduced by around 45%. Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide are the single largest contributor to climate change, and we produce them every day, sometimes without even knowing it. Heating our homes, getting around by car, plane, or bus, and even eating meat and dairy can contribute to climate change. But before you go too crazy with that, and change your entire lifestyle, residential emissions only make up 11% of the big picture. So then what's going on? Who's the problem? 100 companies are responsible for 71% of carbon dioxide emissions in the United States. These companies include big names such as Exxon, BP, and Shell, who are all producers and distributors of fossil fuels. Do we really want the health of our planet to be in the hands of just 100 companies? If action isn't taken to reduce the effects of climate change, the impacts could be horrifying across the globe and even in our own backyards. 18% of insects, 16% of plants, and 8% of vertebrates could be driven extinct. Global flood risks could increase by 170%. Coral reefs will die, sea ice will melt, and malnutrition and disease will spread across the globe. Look at our beautiful planet, and just think for a moment about all of the ecosystem services and resources that it provides for us, completely free, might I add, every single day. Think about swimming in the cool ocean or hiking across tall mountains. Now imagine that being taken away because of climate change. It's easy to look at all of this and feel afraid. It's easy to look at it and lose hope, and it's extremely easy to feel powerless. I mean, we're not politicians. We're not CEOs. We're not climate scientists. We can't do anything. This is out of our control. That's where you're wrong. It's easier to believe the idea that you can't change things than to rise up and believe that you really can. It was President Obama who said that change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Think back for a moment to that idea of 12 years and all of the things one person can do within that time. You can write thousands of letters to your representatives. You can march in hundreds of protests. You yourself could become a representative who takes a strong stance on these issues. You could become a climate scientist who researches and does the important work it takes to protect our planet. You can use your voice and the power that you hold to rise up and make the change that we so desperately need. So what are you waiting for? Your 12 years are on the clock. Your planet will thank you.
awesome job, Evie. Up next is junior Cody Timmer speaking about the importance of manufacturing classes.
So before I start, let's just take a second to look around at what's around us. You got the lights, the chairs, the stage, the screen. How are all these things made? They're made by manufacturing engineering. Manufacturing is defined as the creation of an object from raw materials by hand or by machines. But why should we have these programs in high school? What are the goals of these programs? What does it mean to have hands-on experience in these classes? Let's look at the data. From the year 2000 to 2017, 5.5 million jobs were lost in the United States. The reason? All the jobs went overseas. We lost all of the jobs because we had nobody to fulfill the jobs here. If we give these students the opportunities, some of these jobs might come back, some of them might not. Last year, TMJ4 did a story on former Sabre and Franklin alum David Venner.
Cost of a four-year college has many students looking at alternatives, and one increasingly popular option, trade schools. As Ben Jordan reports, it's now a major emphasis at Franklin High School, with companies mentoring and recruiting right out of the classroom.
Students here in Franklin are introduced to the trade industry before they enter high school. So if it's a career path they choose to take, some are graduating with apprenticeships, leading to jobs paying upwards of $80,000 a year.
Inside this Franklin High School medals class, headgear is on and sparks are flying as students learn the trade industry by using high-precision machines. Something senior David Van Ert never even considered as a career path just a few years ago.
My main thought throughout most of my high school was actually just like, what college I'm going to go to, how I'm going to do that.
That'll change when he signed up for a couple of classes to learn the basics about machining and welding.
And I was kind of hooked right away. I really love working with my hands, being able to build a product.
Franklin High School has one of the biggest trade and tech programs in the state, with more than 600 students involved, almost half the student body. Franklin-based manufacturing company Crohn's Incorporated took notice, putting one of their employees in the classroom to mentor and recruit. Is it hard to find good young talent in the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, there's a lot of good young talent out there. I think there's some misconceptions about what manufacturing careers look like.
A big help for manufacturing teacher Noelle Bishop.
It can go so much deeper than what a secondary instructor can provide.
This tells you exactly where you are in the X and Y axis.
When Van Ert graduates at the end of the month, he's already landed a 3-year apprenticeship program in machining with a salary of 60 to 80 grand to look forward to.
I'm ecstatic. I don't have to worry about any student loans. I don't have to worry about getting a job.
In Franklin, Ben Jordan, today's TMJ4.
So, here's a great example of something right here in our own school. Looking at this, you might think, oh, this is way cheaper than a 4-year college. And you're right, it is. It might be more cost efficient for students that can't go to college to turn around and go to a tech school or get an apprenticeship. But that might be a good thing for them. Others is the 4-year path. When I was writing my speech this year, I interviewed a few teachers and administrators and asked them the same 3 questions I asked you at the beginning of the speech. Mr. Deblack, our tech innovations teacher, brought up the idea that failure is what makes us succeed in life. He talks about that math, science, social studies, English, classes like that are at an A to F scale. A being passing, F being failing. Manufacturing, yes, can be on an A to F scale, but it's more of a pass-fail basis. This pass-fail basis is you might have the best product in the class, but if the customer doesn't like it, doesn't like what you have made, you failed. Ms. Bishop, my welding teacher and the welding teacher here at the high school, talks about what it means to have the technical skills and the other skills in life. She talks about that, yes, it's good for the students to have the technical skills to get jobs like David did. But she also brings up one other thing that's really important, is that these classes teach teamwork and cooperation. And that's going to go way further in life than any of these technical skills will. And I'd be lying to you and say that I'm going into manufacturing, because I'm not. I'm going to be an engineer. And yes, I'm going to a 4-year college. But when we look at it, this is important for anybody because it teaches teamwork. I found this totally by accident. I had a freak sports injury, wasn't able to do gym. This is where I landed. And without this, I don't think I'd be the person I am today.
Thank you, Cody. Up next is sophomore Nicolas Greaves speaking about our ever-expanding universe.
Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. We have been told this countless of times. However, there are objects in space that appear to be traveling way faster than the speed of light, 3 times faster. To understand why this happens, first we need to understand how the universe works. The universe is expanding in all directions, and the distance between objects are getting larger. It's pretty similar to this animation, but instead of there being an edge to the dots will go on forever, as the universe is infinite. A second thing to keep in mind is that the farther we are away from Earth, the faster objects will appear to be moving away from us. To understand this, we just have to use a little bit of simple algebra. Now here, we have a sample space of space with the before and after, and a couple of millennia passing. So, in that time, the distance between each planet has increased by the same amount. But from the blue planet to the yellow planet, the distance has increased by 5 units of measurement. While from the blue planet to the pink planet, the distance has increased by 15 units of measurement. This means that that the pink planet has moved farther away in the same amount of time, which means it has a much larger speed. This will continue on happening as we move as the planets keep going farther and farther away. Now, there's a distance. Now, let's imagine Earth is moving 400 million miles per hour to the left. Well, another planet, let's call it Planet X, is moving 400 million miles per hour to the right. From Earth, Planet X will appear to be moving at 800 miles per hour. This speed, in fact, is faster than the speed of light, which is about 670,000 miles per hour. Now, in this simple example, I just showed you why some objects appear to be faster than the speed of light. But there's a specific distance away from Earth where objects are moving at exactly the same speed of light. This distance is called the Hubble sphere. Now, as time passes, common sense will tell us that any object outside the Hubble sphere will not be able to be seen, as its light will never reach us, for we are moving farther away from them than the speed of light. But as time passes, the Hubble sphere expands, and with it, it will overcome those pieces of light, and will be made visible to us. Here I have a simple example of the green meaning the Hubble sphere, and our red sun. In the before, the red sun is outside the Hubble sphere and it's not visible to us. But as time passed, the Hubble sphere, the green, expanded, and the red light entered the Hubble sphere and it was made visible. Now, this allows us to see 3 times farther than the Hubble sphere. This This huge and vast visible universe is full of mysteries and wonders, and it's just waiting for us to find them. Thank you.
Awesome job, Nicolas. Up next is senior Fatima Farooq speaking about beauty and culture.
It was August 2014, and I was visiting Pakistan for the first time in 7 years. Don't go out in the sun, or else you will get darker. My aunt and mom would remind me every day. Each time I left my house, I would see advertisements and billboards featuring light-skinned models endorsing whitening creams and other bleaching products. At supermarkets, there would be an entire aisle dedicated to whitening products, which would be cheap and affordable for anyone. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, where I was raised in a traditional Pakistani way. Being exposed to South Asian movies and shows from a very young age, I was brainwashed to believe that beauty means lighter skin. I have seen some of the best South Asian actresses transition from a dark skin to a much lighter color. My favorite example is Priyanka Chopra. Many of you may know Priyanka as the wife of Nick Jonas, or as Alex from the Netflix show Quantico. Priyanka earned the title of Miss World in 2000, and since then, her skin has been getting lighter each year. Sadly, for most women in South Asia, achieving white skin means opening doors of opportunity, fame, or even marriage. It is not their fault that they're insecure about their dark complexion. It is the society which enforces its biased notion of beauty. As a child, I was told that I was lucky that my complexion was naturally fair enough to fit the ridiculous Pakistani beauty standards, or else I would have been repeatedly bombarded with whitening creams to make my skin lighter. However, I still wasn't satisfied enough, and I wanted to be as white as Harper in Wizards of Waverly Place. Hence, being a naive 10-year-old, I would beg my mom every day to let me use her fair and lovely whitening cream. Yes, they're literally giving a message to young girls that you're only considered lovely if you're fair. A report from 2009 stated that in India alone, $432 million worth of whitening products are sold each year, and a huge chunk of this is earned by fair and lovely whitening creams. Their ads would conventionally feature a woman who gets rejected by the guy she likes or the job she wants due to her darker complexion. Fair and lovely is then presented to her as a magical solution to all her problems. And as soon as she starts using it, she gets whatever she was aiming for. Obviously, when I see these ads now, I get agitated and annoyed by their lack of intelligence. But imagine a 6-year-old watching this every day. How would it impact her self-esteem and her own mindset about beauty? As I grew into my teenage years, I started to challenge the ideals of beauty in my own house. I refused to use any bleaching creams when it was suggested by members in my community. In 2018, I moved to America, and I was fascinated by the diversity in skin color and how everyone stood out as so unique and beautiful. Now, I already had an idea that people here love to go outside to get tan. However, I didn't know that most people here aspired to be tan. I was baffled when I saw fake tanning salons and lotions being advertised everywhere. Past summer, when people were spending more time outdoors, my mom was worried about my brother getting too tan. A few months later, I invited my white friend to my house, and as expected, my mom was captivated by her enchanting complexion. As my mom referred to her as an angel from the sky, I recalled how my friend once mentioned that she was bullied as a child for being too white. After being in two different societies, I couldn't wrap my head around why beauty was always one specific skin color and not all. Before, I used to edit my pictures and make myself look much lighter. But after I moved here, I subconsciously tried to be more tan. I was confused because I was supposed to be tan to be beautiful here. But if I moved back to Pakistan, I have to be fair to be lovely. After being told my entire life how I should look like and what beauty is, I am grateful that I have finally come to an understanding that beauty is uniqueness and comes in all sizes, shapes, and skin colors.
Amazing job, Fatima. I hope you have all enjoyed the show so far. It is now time for a 10-minute intermission. Welcome back, everyone. Our next speaker is Senior Tyler Kelly, who will be speaking about how youth can make a difference.
Like many nights, I was pointlessly scrolling through my Twitter feed. I came to an observation. My tweets were starting to look like this. All about politics, none about policy. All hateful, devising, and polarizing, none of which had any sort of a way that I could truly see change happening. And I wondered, why would people tweet like this? Why do people feel the need to use their Twitter as a negative soapbox for their political opinions? It does nothing. And then I came to a realization. Some people in my generation believe the #1 way for them to make an impact in the world they live in is by tweeting negatively about the political world. And I wasn't the only one to have this breakthrough. I'm going to let you hear President Barack Obama speak to the same truth.
You know, this idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws. People who you are fighting may love their kids and, you know, share certain things with you. And I think that one danger I see among young people, particularly on college campuses, Malia and I talk about this. Yara goes to school with my daughter. But I do get a sense sometimes now among certain young people, and this is accelerated by social media, there is this sense sometimes of the way of me making change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people. And that's enough. Like if I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or used the wrong verb, or then I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself because, man, you see how woke I was? I called you out. I'm gonna get on TV, watch my show, watch Grownish. You know, that's not activism. That's not bringing about change. You know, if all you're doing is casting stones, you know, you're probably not going to get that far. That's easy to do.
While I agree with almost everything President Obama had to say in this speech, I feel like he was extremely hypocritical upon one point. He complained about how my generation does activism, but provided no solutions. So that's what I'm going to do with my speech today. I'm going to explain some simple ways young people can stand up and make a change. The first thing I'd like to talk about is registering people to vote. This is something anyone can do. You can do it online on your smartphone any day. And you may say, Tyler, we live in Wisconsin. We have same-day voter registration. And while that is true, people are 3 times more likely to actually vote if they are registered before an election. It speeds up the process, and while registering somebody, you can tell somebody exactly when and where they need to go to their polling place. So you may say everyone should be registered. Not yet. We do not have automatic voter registration in our state, and young people can go anywhere to do it. You could host a voter registration drive at your school, you could do it in a community center, or anywhere you would expect people that aren't registered to vote to be. And by doing this, you can have a huge political impact. While any 18-year-old plus can vote once, you can register unlimited people to vote and essentially amplify your political voice trifold. The next thing that I would challenge people to do is to start speaking up. We can see on a variety of political movements the impact young people can have. Whether it's Parkland putting the gun control movement in the mainstream, or Greta Thunberg winning Time Person of the Year this year and making our leaders speak to how climate change is going to affect us. And I have experienced this personally. Throughout joining a variety of movements, I've learned that adults love to put a young person in center stage. They believe that by focusing issues as the issues of the next generation, they will be able to elevate their issues and ensure that the fight continues. And anyone can do this. You can just Google whatever cause you care about, find a grassroots organization, and go to the next meeting, and I guarantee you, you will start making a difference, and adults will appreciate it. The last way I would like to challenge young people and all people is to use the not traditional method of spending your dollar wisely. When we think about spending money, we always talk about the goods and services we are provided rather than the morals of the companies that we spend our money with. And there are some companies that do great things with their money and others that do terrible things. And the way people spend their money can change actions. I've got two examples of this. The first is Dick's Sporting Goods. If you didn't hear, Dick's Sporting Goods recently stopped selling assault rifles. Rather than selling them to somebody else, they literally destroyed the weapons. You may say that's a stupid financial decision. You'd be wrong. Dick's also happened to have their best quarter in the past 4 years after doing this for two reasons. Lots of liberal activists intentionally supported their business because they knew they were doing the right things. And secondly, they got lots of positive media attention for taking these logical and societal approved actions. An example of a company that wasn't doing good things would be Chick-fil-A. They were donating to anti-LGBT organizations, supporting conversion therapy, a plethora of problems. And people did what they should have done. They protested. They refused to eat their great chicken sandwiches. And recently, Chick-fil-A has announced that they no longer will be donating to anti-LGBT organizations. You can now enjoy your chicken sandwiches, but it also can really show us that simply by spending your money correctly, people of any age can have a real impact. So you may ask, why does any of this matter? Nobody under the age of 18 is allowed to vote, so they shouldn't care about our politics. You live in your parents' house, you don't pay taxes, it's not your problem. I happen to disagree. I'd argue that my generation is more affected by the policies of today than our 60-something-year-old policymakers. While in 20 to 30 years, they'll likely be dead, I'll be experiencing the effects of the policies that they make. And with issues like climate change and gun control and income inequality extremely relevant right now, I'd argue that my future depends on the decisions they're making. Which is why my message to my generation would be to stand up. If you don't stand up now, you risk living in a world that you simply don't want to live in.
Well done, Tyler. Up next is freshman Emma Mickelson speaking about body image.
Hi, I'm Emma, freshman as she said, 5'1", and in 8th grade I weighed a little under 190 pounds. I had somehow managed to gain 80 pounds over the span of 2 months. First thoughts, I am one of those kids that sits around all day while watching YouTube, eating junk food. And then, what if I told you that while I gained this weight, I'd been working out, doing intense cardio 2 to 3 days a week, watching what I ate as well as the proportions of food that I ate. We need to learn that our weight and our health are not directly correlated. You can be thin and unhealthy, as well as curvy and very healthy. I had gained my weight while on medication for my anxiety, depression, and the steroids that I take for my asthma. Whenever I tell someone this after they've commented on my weight gain and now weight loss, they immediately start to apologize and say that it's okay, as long as I hadn't been one of those girls that was sitting around and didn't care. But what if I had? Why should it matter? There should be no apologies necessary, because there should be no judgment in the first place. The Victoria's Secret model had once commented on the prep week before a major show. Though it is ridiculous and unhealthy. They don't eat for at least a week, and they don't drink water for 3 to 4 days, all in order to lose a few pounds. Would you rather be curvy and healthy, or thin and passing out from malnutrition? The problem is, a lot of people would choose the latter, including myself at one point. Because we are desperately trying to meet society's standards of how we're supposed to look and act. The National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Eating Disorders had once did a study and that found that approximately every 62 minutes, someone dies as a direct result from an eating disorder. Approximately 30 million people right now in the US have an eating disorder. So the chance that you know someone with an eating disorder is very high. It's difficult for girls because wanting to lose weight is seen as normal and encouraged, praised even. But when it comes to curvy girls, they're asked how they did their weight loss, and they're congratulated and praised and seen as a success story. But in reality, they have to say that it was a fad diet that worked, that didn't work on anyone else, but somehow made them lose weight. Our weight and our health aren't directly correlated. You can be thin and unhealthy, curvy and healthy, just as I stated before. You are perfect the way you are. You are loved, and you don't need to change to meet anyone else's standards. I hope that this reminded you of that. Thank you.
Awesome job, Emma. Up next is Senior Amenah Syed speaking about race, religion, and ethnicity.
I am 3 in 1, American, Muslim, and Indian, all at the same time. Coexisting as all of these identities has not always been an easy task. And here's one reason why. Too often, I've been asked the question, where are you from? My answer, America, which is the truth. I was born here. I live here. America is my home, my only home. But for some reason, that's almost never the right answer. People say, no, really, where are you actually from? Like my answer wasn't the truth. Like I'm not American, even though I am. Or maybe they'll say, well, where are your parents from? Which is the same answer, America. But I always wonder, why am I not considered to be American right off the bat? Why is my word not enough? I could pull out my birth certificate and show it to the people who ask, but even then, I'm sure that they would still say, no, really, where are you from? This kind of question is called a microaggression. As defined by the American Psychological Association, a microaggression is a brief statement or behavior that communicates a negative message about a non-dominant group. Psychologists say that because these statements are often subtle, they can be harder to recognize compared to other kinds of biases.
And the reason why these microaggressions arise is because the dominant worldview in our society is Eurocentric, meaning white dominant. So one of the reasons why I get asked the question, where are you from, is because of my race and ethnicity. And unfortunately, a lot of the people I've met don't know the difference between the two. Race refers to someone's physical characteristics, while ethnicity refers to the social culture of a person. My race and ethnicity of being Indian don't fit the stereotypical image that pops into your head when you hear the word American. I'm not blonde or blue-eyed. But regardless of what color of the rainbow I am, living in America should be enough to be American. Or maybe another reason could be my religion. To clarify, religion refers to someone's spiritual beliefs. I'm Muslim, but because of that, I don't look American. But what do looks have to do with nationality and citizenship? America is often called a melting pot, a place where people of all kinds of cultures and ethnicities and religions come together to form a cohesive country. Although this idea of a melting pot first referred to people from all over Europe, it's now a place where people from all across the globe come together. But for some reason, there are still some people who have a hard time imagining that these same religions and ethnicities and cultures can represent one single country, even though that's what America is supposed to be, diverse. We need to reconsider what defines being American. Currently, 76% of Americans are white, which means that out of every 4 people you meet, 1 of them won't be white. It's also estimated that in 2045, America will become minority white, meaning being European will become the minority. But regardless of race, ethnicity, and religion, being an American citizen is enough to be American. And that's the true definition of American. You can even look it up. But what we need to remember, though, is that race, ethnicity, and religion don't affect whether a person is American or not. Only citizenship and nationality do. Another thing we need to look out for is microaggressions. Although they can be hard to recognize because they are subtle, before you ask someone a question, put yourself in their shoes and think about how the hidden meanings of that statement might affect them. And remember, it's okay if you make a mistake because we all make them. We just need to learn from them, and that'll help all of us be able to understand each other much better. But if you ask someone, where are you from, and don't accept the answer America, you're implicitly saying that you don't believe that that person is American, or that that person isn't the stereotypical American, and therefore has to be something else. But remember, no one here is 100% American. Your roots will always go back to your ancestors who immigrated here, whether they're from Europe, Asia, Australia, South America, Africa, or Antarctica, although I don't think anyone lives there. But the point is, anyone who is an American citizen is American, regardless of their race, ethnicity, and religion. And if you want to know either of those things, just ask that person, and they'll be happy to answer. So if you want to know my ethnicity, ask me, what is your ethnicity? And I'll say Indian. If you want to know my religion, ask, what is your religion? And I'll say Islam. But if you ask me, where are you from? Don't be surprised when I say America, because that's exactly where I'm from.
Amazing job, Amenah. Before I call all the speakers back onto the stage, I'd like to thank a few of the people who made the 3rd annual Voices of FHS happen. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Krause and stage crew for managing all of the lights and the sounds and for helping us through the rehearsals. Next, I would like to thank FHS administration for allowing this event to happen and for helping me with the announcements. And next, I would like to thank our wonderful advisor, Mrs. Tyndall, who's actually backstage right now. Look at her headset. Look at her go. Mrs. Tyndall is one of the most supportive and kind and encouraging people I know, and this event would not have been possible without her, so thank you for everything you've helped me with for the past 2 years.
Angie has taken this leadership role and makes it look effortless, and I'm really proud of all she's done for this event and appreciate it, and did tell a few people tonight that I'm probably not going to let her graduate. She's too valuable to lose. So thank you, Angie.
Let's have all the speakers come out on the stage. Now, articulating your thoughts can sometimes be difficult. However, these 7 speakers have gathered up the courage to get up in front of you tonight and talk about their ideas and their passions. Thank you all so much for the time and effort that you dedicated to this event. It's been a pleasure working with you for the past few months. Let's give it up for our speakers.
And now all of us want to take a moment to say thank you to our wonderful advisor, Angie Carchesi. She's been running this, as Ms. Tyndall said, since last year, and none of us would be here in the Sabre Center right now if it wasn't for her taking the reins and kicking butt. So thank you, and we love you.
Yeah, without Angie, I don't think, like Evie said, I don't think any of us would be up here. I don't think this program would still be running after the first year. And with Angie taking it, it's been truly an honor to work with her.
I want to thank Angie for organizing this and dealing with all the problems I had and being always so organized. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie, for being supportive and so well organized.
Thanks, Angie, for keeping this event around, despite the fact I didn't wear a tie and letting me speak.
Thank you, Angie. I literally wouldn't have joined if it wasn't for you. You're the one that convinced me right after tennis.
Thank you for everything, Angie, and especially for helping us when we didn't have that much motivation and just for organizing it and everything. We love you so much.
And lastly, this event would not have been possible without our wonderful audience, so thank you all so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate the support. And drive home safe and have a great evening.